Ekaka lekota gela gora natara. Ashane kuti pomata anale pashipo. Goranga gunera nite gotagela papo. Se sabha sangira sange je koilo bila. Se sangha napaya kande narotamata. Ye anilo premadana karuna pracho. Eno prabhukata gela charjatako. Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur.
Jayananda Prabhu ki, Nitai Go Premanandi. All glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glorious assembled devotees, all glories to the Lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga August Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Surti Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisaisa Sunyavadi Paschachadi Satarine. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. So we welcome you this morning to the Sri Caitanya-Caritāmṛta class. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Today we'll be observing the Tirubhava, the disappearance of a wonderful devotee, Sriman Jayananda Prabhu. Today we'll talk about his glories. He's an exceptional devotee amongst the ISKCON devotees. just out of curiosity, anyone in this assembly not aware of Jayananda Prabhu? Don't be ashamed, it's okay. Anyone not aware of Jayananda Prabhu? So there's a few devotees, so maybe this will be a little insight for those of you who don't know this wonderful devotee. Those who know, veterans, it will be an amazing refresher. Maybe there's something new that you might hear today. So I chose this particular verse. I'll just chant it myself. Time is a little bit limited, and then we'll just discuss his wonderful qualities. If anyone has anything else they want to add, they're more than welcome. Arhadanam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam para Tasmat parantaram devi Tadiyanam samacharanam. Translation. Lord Shiva told the goddess Durga, "My dear Devi, although the Vedas recommend worship of the demigods, the worship of Lord Vishnu is topmost. However, above the worship of Lord Vishnu is rendering of service to Vaishnavas who are related to Lord Vishnu." The Vedas are divided into three divisions: Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. These are activities dealing with fruitive work, empiric philosophical speculation, and worship. They are recommendation in the Vedas for the worship of various demigods as well as Lord Vishnu. In this quotation from the Padma Purana, Lord Shiva answers a question posed to him by goddess Durga. This verse is also included in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita 2.4 by Srila Rupa Goswami. The words Vishnu Aradhanam refer to the worship of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Thus, the supreme form of worship is the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. It is further concluded that the worshipper of Lord Vishnu renders better service by worshipping the devotees of Lord Krishna. The different types of devotees, those in Santaras, Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, and Madhuryaras. Although all the rasas are on the transcendental platform, Madhurya Ras is the supreme transcendental mellows. Consequently, it is concluded that the worship of the devotees engaged in the Lord's service in Madhurya Rasa is the supreme spiritual activity. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers mainly worship Lord Krishna in the Madhurya Rasa. Other Vaishnava acharyas recommend the worship up to Vatsalya Rasa. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami in his Vidhagda Madhava 1.2 describes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult as the supreme. Anarpita charim charat karuna vayatirtha kalo sampayitam yunata jvala rasam ava bhakti sriyam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this age of Kali to exhibit the super excellence of Madhurya Rasa, a gift never previously bestowed by any acharya or incarnation. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is accepted as the most magnanimous incarnation. It is he only who distributes love of Krishna while exhibiting the super excellence of loving Krishna in the conjugal rasa. Om Jnanati Marandasya Chakshurun Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvei Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschachya Desatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Taking the blessings of everyone, I can say a few words. Particularly, I'd like to take the blessings of Jayananda Prabhu. I hope I can adequately glorify his wonderful qualities. Vancha kalpa trubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patito nam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So as explained in the purport, there are many, many different types of worship. Particularly in India, we see so many types of different kinds of worship. And then Lord Shiva is explaining to Parvati, the topmost worship is Vishnu Aradhana, which is the worship of Lord Vishnu. We all are here worshipping Lord Vishnu, and the topmost form is Lord Shri Krishna. And for us particularly, the Madhurya Rasa that Krishna is engaged in. However, although Krishna is the topmost that we worship, there's somebody who is higher than Krishna. Ooh. Somebody higher than Krishna? No way. What's he talking about? Who is higher than Krishna or Vishnu? Radharani. And what is Radharani described here as? Yes? Topmost. Tadiya. That which is related to Krishna. Tadiya. So Krishna has many, many paraphernalia, and the greatest paraphernalia that Krishna has is his devotees. It is explained Krishna can give anything to you, but Krishna cannot give you devotional service, because by devotional service you can capture Krishna. And that is what the devotee has. He has devotional service. And as we see in the example of Jayananda, he possesses the topmost devotional service qualities, attitude. And Jayananda Prabhu, he comes from a pretty wealthy background, all American, handsome, tall person. And although he was very, very qualified, he rejected the modern education. As it was customary in those days, most of the youngsters, they did not accept the way the society was going. They were frustrated. That's why you had what we call the hippie movement. Anyone here from the hippie movement? Yeah, you are number one hippie lover. Yeah, flower power. So Jayananda Prabhu was as such that he rejected, and even though he was very, very qualified, he became a cab driver. In fact, his family says he was so disenchanted with the world that he even was contemplating suicide. So that's how far he had gone in his thoughts about the sufferings of this material world. Until one morning, when he woke up, like any other morning, he got up, got his tea, his toast, and then as he went to do his errands, he saw in the newspaper a little article about a Swami who had come into Heytesbury. And then he got intrigued by it. Then he went to this particular place in the evening. It is explained in his own words, when he first went to see the temple, he was a little bit disillusioned. Anyone know why he was a little bit disillusioned when he first went to the temple? Because he just saw a ragtag of hippies over there. Like I said, he came from a well-to-do family, and he saw this interesting bunch, or the wild bunch over there. And he was thinking to himself, what am I doing over here? This is probably not for me. But then he just was a little patient, and when Srila Prabhupada walked in to the temple room, immediately, whatever doubts he had, completely dropped. And as soon as he saw Prabhupada didn't even speak. He immediately thought, well, there's something over here. Then he sat and he listened to Srila Prabhupada. And he was so taken by Srila Prabhupada that every evening, after working a shift of 10 hours, driving cab, he would come and listen to Prabhupada. And it's explained that sometimes he was the only member of the audience when Srila Prabhupada was speaking. Can you imagine? If I'm giving Bhagavatam class and only Prabhu is there. So, nevertheless, he was there every day, very diligent. And then Srila Prabhupada, in due course of time, initiated him. And very, very quickly, he took on great responsibility in the temple service. In those days, you joined the temple, and within 3 days, you were the temple president, or you were the temple commander, or you were the Sankirtan leader. So in this way, there was limited manpower, but somehow or another, the devotees noticed his attitude towards service was very, very, very nice. When you have this kind of attitude, then the doors open to you. Then it is explained that because in the early days, there was not much finance, there was not much money coming in. Most of the visitors were there either for the kirtan or for prasadam. There was no kind of solid income. So Jayananda was only member of that community of devotees who was working full-time, doing service, and he was also contributing the money towards the upkeep of the temple. And then he was the first devotee to give, I think second maybe, Brahmananda was first, and he was the second devotee who gave a large amount of money. He had his life savings of 5,000 pounds, and he gave it to Srila Prabhupada. A little trivial. Anyone know what Srila Prabhupada used this money for? Prabhuji? No. That was Brahmananda's, I think. Nope. Yeah? Sorry? Nope. Nectar of devotion. So when you read the Nectar of Devotion, this was all due to the wonderful contribution of Jayananda Prabhu. Now when you kind of translate 5,000 to modern time, it's probably about 40,000 pounds. So anyone ready to give 40,000 pounds here? Huh? Dollars, sorry Prabhuji. So in this way, he was not attached to his money. He was happy to surrender everything to Srila Prabhupada. And one of the amazing qualities that Jayananda had was he was genuinely a humble devotee. We all aspire to be a humble devotee. We all chant Trinadapi Sunechena every morning. But he was the embodiment of humility. Why? Because he was also, although he was providing finance, although he was a temple president, do you know what another nickname he had? Anyone knows? He was the local garbage man. Who wants to be called the garbage man? I remember when I was the temple commander in the 80s, I was also the garbage man. And just where this place is over here, all the garbage was over here, and I had to get rid of all the garbage. And it's explained that one devotee came, and he approached Jayananda, and he asked Jayananda, can I have some service? And Jayananda said, can you help me with the garbage? And this devotee noticed, now sometimes when you're giving a service, you might grudge taking the service. Who's ever been in that position? Sometimes when you're given a service as a garbage man, who's grudged that? So it's not a particularly nice service, but somebody has to do it, isn't it? And Jayananda Prabhu was the one who did it. And this devotee noticed that even though Jayananda was doing this so-called menial service, he was very, very happy. He was blissfully chanting, he was carrying his service, and he did not complain. And this devotee, he thought to himself, if a garbage man can be this happy, can you imagine what the other devotees were like? So then immediately seeing Jayananda in such a happy, blissful way performing Krishna consciousness, this devotee immediately joined the temple. And another name of Jayananda, so he's the garbage man. Another name for him, he was a touchstone. So anyone knows what a touchstone is? Whatever you touch, it manifests. So Narada Muni and Parvata were talking about Magrari. And Parvata was so surprised that Magrari, the hunter, who used to enjoy killing, that Parvata was astonished that he became a humble saint. And Parvata said, Narada Muni, you're like a touchstone. Anyone you touch or have association, they transform into a wonderful devotee, as was the case of Magrari. And Jayananda Prabhu was exactly like that. That whoever came in contact with Jayananda Prabhu, whoever had association of Jayananda Prabhu, whoever spoke with Jayananda Prabhu, immediately they were attracted to Jayananda Prabhu. Now in life, even Krishna says that every endeavor has what? A fault. So we are generally, at least I am, a little bit of a fault finder. We might find fault in this devotee. We might find fault in this Mataji. We might find fault in that devotee. We generally like to find a little fault. That's unfortunately the human psychology that we have. But Jayananda Prabhu, as far as I am concerned, anyone can challenge me if they want to. They'll get some dollars afterwards if they prove me wrong. I've been in ISKCON for 5 decades now. 5 decades I've been in ISKCON. And I've never, in my entire life in Krishna consciousness, found anyone find fault in Jayananda Prabhu. Now, just think about this. So many devotees. By the time 1977, there was more than probably, 10,000 devotees. There were thousands of devotees. So many devotees came in contact with Jayananda. Not one single devotee had anything negative to say about Jayananda. And that alone proves what an amazing Vaishnava he is. So humility was one of his amazing, amazing qualities. And apart from being the garbage man, apart from being the temple president, apart from being paying the bills, he also had another job. Anyone know what that job was? Sorry? We're going to just come that in a minute. Prashadam, we're going to come that in a minute. Taxi, we already mentioned taxi driver. Sorry? Printing. We get in there. Let's churn this nectar. Come on. Let's churn it. The more we churn it. Huh? Rathia, we mentioned. I'm going to come there in a second. Leading Harinam. We're going to come that to a second. We're getting there. Come on, Prabhus. Let's go. Churn the nectar. Drama. No. He was doing the Bhoga run. He was doing the Bhoga run. As I mentioned, in those days, we didn't have much finance. At the moment, we see Bhaktivedanta Manor. Every day, there's Bhoga here. There's Shamashunda. Every day is carrying bags and stacks of rice. And he's thinking, stop the Bhoga. But in those days, there was hardly any money for Bhoga. So the devotees had to go and beg to go and get the Bhoga. So early in the morning, and one devotee watched from the corner of his eye. He was living in the same room as Jayananda. Most devotees, it was a long day in those days. I know at the moment we complain a little bit about the hours, but in those days the devotees worked tirelessly and selflessly, hours after hours. So bedtime, curfew was at 10 o'clock. No one was allowed to be up after 10. But one devotee watched from the corner of the eye. Jayananda would be still in the corner chanting, and he would go to sleep at 11 o'clock. 1 hour after everyone. And then most devotees would get up around 4 o'clock. Except for me, I used to get up at 2 minutes before Mangalati. But Jayananda, he would get up at 2:30. So from 11 to 2:30, how many hours of sleep is that? Maths? And that's not just one day. That's not just 2 days. Everyone will say that Jayananda did not sleep more than 3 to 4 hours a day. And sometimes he wouldn't sleep at all. He just would not sleep. He was driven by Krishna's Yogeshwar, mystic powers. We'll come back to that in a second. So he was doing a boga run, and then when he used to go, he was such a lovable person that he was even attracting the non-devotees. Now, devotees would always try and get Jayananda's association. But when he would do the boga run, even the ruffians or the envious people would love Jayananda. And then sometimes, because Jayananda had so much service, he wouldn't necessarily always manage to do the boga run. The stall owners, they would always say, "Hey, where's Johnny Ananda? Where's Johnny Ananda?" And they noticed that when Jayananda went, the van was full of boga. When another devotee went, only half full. So Jayananda, it is explained again in the prayers to the 6 Goswami, that the Goswamis were loved by the ruffians and the devotees. And Jayananda also was loved by the ruffians, and they were willing to give the boga to him. So amongst your friends, you're liked, you might be a leader. Prabhupada was saying that he was a leader amongst his friends. So amongst our friends, we are liked, but imagine amongst the ruffians that you're liked. So then, one of the most famous festivals that everyone enjoys is what? Jai Jagannath, Hari Bol. Okay, let's see a little bit of trivia. When was the first Rath Yatra in ISKCON? The date? 1967. And guess who was behind that? Was it Jason? Was it Jaya Krishna? No, it wasn't Jason and the Argonauts. It was Jayananda Prabhu. And the first Rath Yatra, he organized that. And you can see a video, you can go and see a video where there's a flatback truck, and then he organized that. It's a wonderful video of Jayananda organizing, and you can see him. And then he organized 1967, and then also in 1968. So then at that point, he decided to build a Rath cart. Now, there's different stories, as we know in ISKCON. Stories get embellished, stories get changed. People like to kind of enhance the stories. So, correct me if I'm wrong. So, Jayananda Prabhu was building this Rath cart. And then there was this hippie skipping along down the road, minding his own business. And then Jayananda was holding some wood. And sometimes you need 2 people to do some construction work. And then he noticed this person walking down, and he asked, "Excuse me, sir, excuse me, can you give me a hand?" And this person was thinking, "Yeah, okay." And then he said, "Can you hold this while I just nail it onto this piece of cart?" And this person didn't think about it, then he held it. And Jayananda started nailing. And then after he finished that, then this person was about to go. And he said to him, do you know what? I've never seen anyone hold that piece of wood the way you held it. You did an incredible job. But I think that was a fluke, wasn't it? I don't think you can do it again. Can you do it again? And this person was saying, yeah, of course I can do it again. What's he talking about? Who can't hold a piece of wood? Anyway, then he held this wood again and again. And before you know it, the saying is, he got hooked. And before you know it, he was there helping building the Rath-yatra cart. And anyone know who this wonderful, glorious Vaishnava is? Jaya Pataka Maharaj ki Jai. So Jaya Pataka Maharaj, I heard this lecture yesterday. He attributes Jayananda Prabhu for making him a devotee. And he also said Jayananda Prabhu was the first person who shaved his head. So here we go, the Rath carts being slowly getting bigger. If you have the timeline, first was the flat bed truck, then a little cart. Then as the years progressed, they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the king, or the creme de la creme of this Rath cart festival, anyone again know which one it was? He had many, so from 1967, many Rath carts, and you can see amazing videos. And anyone know which was the one that was creme de la creme of the Rath Yatras? New York, 1976. So he did a wonderful job back on the East Coast, and then he was invited over to New York. And there, you've seen the pictures that he had built 3 carts. The background is, Taruna will probably understand this. He was building and building and building, and the next day was the Rath Yatra. And as they were wrenching, what's it called? Cranking the canopy, it was going up, and everyone was there and clapping. Haribol, it was going up. And as it reached the top, what happened? It collapsed. The whole thing collapsed, and his heart also collapsed. And he was wondering, oh my God, there was meant to be 3 Rath carts. Prabhupada was coming, 5th Avenue. And he sat and was thinking, Prabhu, I'm so sorry. This is not going to be possible. Then one devotee, Maheshwar, said, no, Prabhuji, you have worked so hard. We will not give in. We want to make sure there's 3 carts for Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra for Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnavas. All-nighter. All night they just were building, and Jayananda Prabhu, he had a notebook like this, and he had all the different diagrams, and he started directing the devotees, do this, do that, do that. And then it's explained that somehow or another, even though it was completely impossible, the next day the Rath cart was fixed, and Srila Prabhupada arrived New York. And then Rameshwar was in the back of the car with Prabhupada, and they were driving Prabhupada to see Jayananda in the Rath cart. And Prabhupada could recognize some of the places in New York because he lived there for 1 year. And he was pointing to Rameshwar. I was loitering in the street here. I was sitting on this bench, not knowing when my next meal was going to be. I was going in this shop to see if my books had sailed. And there I was, all alone in this vast city of New York. When he got off the Jaladuta boat, he didn't know whether to turn left or turn right. He had nothing. He was homeless at a certain point. But 10 years forward, then Srila Prabhupada was one of the most important cities in the world, New York. He was in one of the most important streets in the world. Fifth Avenue is the world famous street. And it was a big triumph for Prabhupada. And Jayananda Prabhu was the one who made these 3 glorious carts. And you can see there's a very nice, beautiful picture in Back to Godhead, Jayananda steering the Rath cart. He's got his yellow jacket, famous yellow jacket he would use. And some of you might have been, I don't know if any of you have been to the Jagannath temple in Mayapur, the ISKCON temple. Who's been over there? So you can go there, and the samadhi of Jayananda Prabhu is over there. And this yellow jacket that he wore, his work jacket, is placed in the samadhi. When you go to the samadhi of Jiva Goswami or Rupa Goswami, you see some relic of the beads or some cloth. If you go to Gambhira, you can see Lord Chaitanya's padukas or his garments. So if you go to the Jagannath temple, the samadhi and the yellow jacket. So Srila Prabhupada was so happy with Jayananda. And then no one knew that while he was performing all this incredible task, he had a certain sickness. He had leukemia. And even though he had this disease, he never told anyone. He just kept it to himself. He just carried on doing his service. Because for him, service was much more important. And here it is explained that the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, they're in the Madhurya Ras. And all his service was always Rath Yatra. He was known as the king of Rath Yatra. And what is that pastime of Rath Yatra? That pastime is to take Krishna from the royal palace into the Madhurya Rasa of Vrindavan. So Jayananda was that Madhurya Rasa devotee. And Srila Prabhupada acknowledged, Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda Sitaram Lakshmana Shri Gornitai Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada acknowledged Jayananda. Of course, Srila Prabhupada, when he was present, every single person wanted the association of Prabhupada. Everyone wanted to be near Prabhupada. But Jayananda, as I explained, was very, very humble. And he didn't necessarily want to be near Srila Prabhupada. The most important thing for Jayananda was his service. But so dear was Jayananda to Srila Prabhupada that he didn't necessarily physically have to be near Prabhupada. If Jayananda was not in the temple room, then Prabhupada would say, where is Jayananda? And once Prabhupada was in a van, when he was picked up from the airport in the car, then he asked in the back seat, where is Jayananda? And then the devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, he's driving the car for you. And another time, Srila Prabhupada said, Jayananda is just like Lord Chaitanya. He's very tall, he's very, very handsome. And you see in the Harinams, he's always blissful. His arms are always raised up. He was always on Harinam. Somehow or another, I don't understand, even though he had such a busy schedule. And then he would do a full day service, but he would also have some time for Harinam. And it's explained that one day, Srila Prabhupada noticed that Jayananda was doing Harinam. And he said, every devotee should be like Jayananda. Even though he has so much service, he made time for Harinam. And in those days, Harinam was our main activity. And on that note, I think, Prabhuji, there's a big Harinam today, isn't there? So I think there's, as we explained, Jayananda loved prasadam. He once noticed a small conversation between two devotees taking prasadam. And the devotees were talking different topics, and one of the things the devotees were saying, oh, I need to go on a diet. This prasadam is too rich, I can't eat this. I need to go on a diet. And Jayananda was listening to this. And as these devotees were discussing, and one said, okay, I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to have any paneer, I'm not going to have dairy products. And then as these devotees left, then Jayananda turned to another devotee and said, the only diet I want is Krishna prasadam and hard service. So that was his motto. So today we welcome you all to please come, join the Harinam. I believe they made 1,000 cookies. Is that correct? 1,000 cookies. So to get the mercy of Jayananda, it is explained in that song, Mohe Vaishnava Thakura, that Vaishnava, you have Krishna. A Vaishnava has Krishna. And what is it that we want in this room? We want Krishna. So if a Vaishnava has Krishna, who can give us Krishna? A Vaishnava. Because Krishna is owned by a Vaishnava. So if you want to have Krishna, if you want some of that mercy of Jayananda, then I beseech you, please kindly go on Harinam, distribute a few of these wonderful cookies. Watford Town Center, 12 to 4 o'clock, 4 hours. So if you can't be there the whole time, you can go there for 5 minutes. You can go there for 1 hour. You can go there for 4 hours. You're welcome to come. So as Jayananda Prabhu had this unfortunate disease, then he was moved to Los Angeles. And he was in an apartment over there, and he was taken very, very nicely care of by the devotees. And Jayananda Prabhu, he would never want to make a fuss about himself. Even when they tried to bring him towards Prabhupada, he would say, no, no, no. And one day they forced Jayananda to go and see Prabhupada and garland him. And then he garlanded Prabhupada, and then he apologized to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, I'm so sorry. I'm very dirty. I'm building the Rath cart. And Prabhupada said to him, you are not dirty. Your heart is clean. So Prabhupada didn't see any external. And then as time rolled, then they made a little surprise birthday for Jayananda. They made a nice Rath cart cake. And then you can see pictures on the internet. They took this beautiful cake in the courtyard, and Jayananda Prabhu was there, and he was distributing this cake. And 4 days later, at 4:30 in the morning, the conch blew. The curtains opened. The garland of Lord Jagannath, which was offered, was taken to his apartment, placed on Jayananda's transcendental body at the most auspicious time of Brahma Muhurta, when Mangalarti was being performed for Lord Jagannath, surrounded by devotees. Then he lifted himself up. There was a little recording of Prabhupada being played. He took that and put it close to his ear. Then he said, Hare Krishna. Then he passed away peacefully in such an auspicious setting. We can only dream of having such an auspicious departure, surrounded by devotees, a garland personally coming from Lord Jagannath. Nothing happens by chance. There's no coincidence. It's not ad hoc in Krishna consciousness. Everything is arranged by Yoga Maya in a transcendental way. And when Prabhupada found out about Jayananda's departure, And Srila Prabhupada wrote a beautiful letter, and he said, I'm very, very proud to have such a nice devotee as my disciple. Imagine getting the recognition from your spiritual master. The Srila Prabhupada was very proud to have such a wonderful, nice devotee as Jayananda. And as I explained, nothing happens by chance. Everything happens by the arrangement. Time is limited. Then if we go a few years down the road, there was one devotee. She was a nurse, and sometimes when people are coming to the end of their life, then they're put in a hospice. So this one lady was placed in a hospice, and one devotee was working there. And then she asked her Guru Maharaj, how can I benefit these people who are about to leave their body? And Guru Maharaj said, put tilak on. And if they see tilak, then it will benefit them. So then she started putting tilak on. And she was taking care of this one lady. She was about well over 90 years old. And as she was taking care of this lady, then the relatives came. And they noticed the tilak. And they said to this lady, oh, are you Hare Krishna? And the devotee said, yes. And then the relative, I'm not sure if it was the niece or it was the sister, says, our uncle or our brother, you might have heard of him. His name was Jayananda. And of course, Jayananda is famously known in ISKCON. And then she said yes. And she said, this is the mother of Jayananda. Hari Bol. So can you imagine Lord Krishna personally arranged that on the departure of Jayananda's mother, the devotee was there taking care of Jayananda's mother. And she felt so happy that she had this amazing transcendental service of looking after this lady bore and kept Jayananda Prabhu within her womb, a great Vaishnava. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, Srila Prabhupada said, Bhaktisiddhanta had placed all these different disciples there so that Prabhupada could just pick them like fruits, and then they could help him in spreading Krishna consciousness. So there was no chance that Jayananda Prabhu was there in America. This is an amazing arrangement of Yoga Maya. It was no coincidence. He took up to devotional service. It was no coincidence that on the last moments of Jayananda's mother, a devotee was there, and the relatives were so happy. And they knew Jayananda would be so happy that devotee was there at the last end of Jayananda Prabhu's mother. And then Srila Prabhupada was so happy with Jayananda that he said that let there be a remembrance day, a Tirubhava of Jayananda. And it's widely acknowledged that Jayananda Prabhu is the first saint in ISKCON. Jayananda Prabhu ki. And that's no small task. Once they had a big birthday cake for a senior Vaishnava in Mayapur. And when Prabhupada found out about it, he immediately said we should not celebrate birthdays. Birthdays are only meant for elevated Vaishnavas, great devotees, great acharyas. But yet Prabhupada acknowledged Jayananda being on the level of acharya, and he set a day that we could remember this wonderful occasion. And not only that, because he was the king of Rath Yatra, because we all enjoy Rath Yatra. I think by now there must be, I could be wrong, more than 500 Rath Yatras. Anyone? More than that, more than 500 Rath Yatras in the four corners of the world, because Jayananda was the pioneer. And each of these Rath cart, there's a picture of Jayananda. So he's an amazing devotee. Sometimes we doubt the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Does it even work? But here is a living example. Someone who took to devotional service. Within 10 years, he perfected his life through devotional service, through surrender. And Prabhupada said he went back home, back to Godhead. So if we all want to follow, if we all want to go back home, back to Godhead, then we should follow in the footsteps of Sriman Jayananda Prabhu. I only touched the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more wonderful stories, qualities about Jayananda Prabhu. And there's an amazing book called Radha Damodar Vilas. Anyone read this book? It's an amazing book. I know we hear this so many times. When you get a book and you can just never put it down. You just want to go page after page after page. I am nobody, but I endorse this book, Radha Damodar Vilas. Who hasn't read it? Put your hands up. I implore you, please read this book, and it will empower you. It will make your Krishna consciousness so enlivened, and you will associate with Jayananda Prabhu. You might not have been there physically with him. You might not have been there building the Rath cart. You might not have been there holding the plank of wood for him. But you can immerse yourself, because there's two ways to associate with someone: Vapu and Vani. Obviously, Vapu is very, very nice. But topmost above that is Vani. So take some time, read about Jayananda Prabhu, and then we will get encouraged in our own Krishna consciousness. So we will stop over here. There's so many wonderful stories. The day is still young. By today, look at some pictures, read some stories, read some remembrance by devotees, see some videos, and you will feel transcendental bliss by finding out about Jayananda. If you don't find bliss about reading Jayananda, please come and see me. Thank you very much. Sriman Jayananda Prabhu ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nittai Gaura Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol. There's also another special class. If you're thirsting for more, if you want some more nectar, then at 6 o'clock there's another special class. And again, there'll be a big Harinam this evening. I believe Indradumna Maharaj is going to be there. Oh, is it Saturday today? Yeah, I'm losing, I've got dementia. So there'll be also big Harinam. Vasudev, is that correct? Soho Temple, loads of activities, engage yourself, and let's all go back home, back to Godhead. Hari Bol! Hare Krishna.